Hi, so I thought I'd show you today a little bit of horse care. This is Mia, and before I take her out for a ride, I have just filmed me grooming her, picking out her feet, and tacking her up. And I thought I'd go over the process with you a little bit. So here I'm going to show you picking out her feet, which is one of the most important things of horse care. So it's really important to get all the muck and the stones out of their feet so that it's not painful for them to walk on. Here I'm showing her hoof wall and her metal shoe. So the hoof wall is essentially like a nail. Basically, it's like horses walk on one finger or one toe, and the hoof wall is like the nail, and it's really thick, and it's like you with your nail, you can cut it, you can do things with it, and as long as you don't go back too far, it's not sore. And it's important to cut your nails, they don't get too long, and similarly with horses, they need to be trimmed, shaped back in the right way so that it's not painful for them and they're kept nice and sound. And as you see there, she has the metal shoe around the outside of the foot. Some horses manage without shoes, some horses have shoes on all 4 feet. Are to have them on just the front feet. Horses put the majority of the weight on their front feet, so some of them need it on there, but as you can see now here, she doesn't have a shoe on her back foot, so there's no metal bit round the edge, it's just hoof. So you'll see the triangular section in the middle of the foot there that I'm kind of going down either side of. That's part called the frog. So the whole sort of sole of the foot is slightly sensitive. The frog is quite sensitive. You hear people say to be really, really careful with the frog because it's sensitive.
Alright.
The farrier trims the frog, and that's not a painful experience for them. And it does help them to feel the pressure that their foot's going down onto the ground with and things like this, but you can scrape a frog with your hoof pick and you're not going to hurt them. She's not reacting there. It's most important to you've got deep grooves either side, get down into those grooves, get the stones out, make sure there's no stones or mud sitting in the little groove in the middle of the frog, that V-shaped area. And then you've got the sole of the foot there, and you want to just make sure you get everything out. And you can see here with the front foot, where she has the shoe on, you can see that metal bit, it tends to hold more dirt. And you can see I'm scraping quite hard. The ground's quite dry at the moment. There's a lot of dirt and stones in there. I'm really having to scrape to get them out, and it's much more important that you get them all out, so the horse isn't painful. You're not going to hurt them with the hoof pick. It's way more important to get that nice and clean. And she was very good for that there. So here I'm showing a metal de-shedding brush. So as you can see, it's used to get all of the hair out. So at the minute it's springtime, she gets quite a woolly winter coat she's getting on in her ears a little bit. She gets a bit more hairy now. As all horses get hairier through the winter, and at this time of year now it's getting warmer and the days are getting longer, she's shedding a lot. So as you can see, she's not reacting to this. So I said it is made of metal, but it's a de-shedding tool, and I kind of showed you it at the start there. You could hopefully see it does have little teeth, but they're very small, they're quite blunt. And I'm generally only using it on the areas where she's really fluffy. Mainly her body. I do go on to use it a little bit on her legs down here, but she's not reacting to that. I'm being quite gentle. You don't need much pressure at all with these really, but you can see how it pulls the hair out. So essentially those little grooves grab onto the loose hair and pull it out, because they get really itchy with all of the loose hair. And it just can take a while to come out sometimes, so it just helps them to get that hair out a little bit quicker, because she is super fluffy and you can see it pulling out those clumps of loose hair. So you'll think as though she looks a little bit patchy here, so essentially we clip them through the winter. So because Scotland does get cold, but it's not super cold like some places, so and they still work through the winter, so essentially they get quite a woolly winter coat, but then when they work it's not cold enough to stop them sweating, so if they were left with just a full winter coat, these girls get really quite sweaty, but then it is cold enough that you worry about them when they stop working, they can get a little bit of a chill. So you want to try and stop that, stop them getting super duper sweaty. They struggle to work as well when they're getting really hot and sweaty, so we clip them. So you clip the hair similar to with hair clippers, similar to how some people clip like their dogs and things, and essentially the areas where they some horses, depending on the level of work, they get a more extreme clip, but with these girls they live out as well, so it's a balancing act. So essentially the areas where they sweat the most, so their belly and their neck, and then we tidy up the bottom of their face because they get kind of like a beard when their hair grows in, so that's why she has these weird lines. So essentially as the summer coat grows in and all this fluff comes out, she'll look the same length everywhere. She'll have a nice short summer coat, but currently you can see where the hair's been clipped and where it's all long and fluffy, so I'm mainly keeping it to the long fluffy areas and just pulling that out in clumps with the de-shedding tool there. And as I say, you can see it's not hurting her. She's very relaxed standing there. She doesn't mind that at all. It probably feels quite nice because it's itchy. And here we have what we call a dandy brush. So this can be used all over. It is quite bristly, so you have to be a little bit careful around the face and things, but you just go nice and gently. And essentially this is a brush for sort of flicking off the dirt, hair, brushing out their mane until you can use it sort of everywhere. And in her legs there, I can do the clipped patches with this bit as well, and it's quite good at pulling out bits of hair. Now what's happened here is that is her chestnut. So a chestnut is essentially left over from where horses used to have an extra digit. So back when horses first started to evolve and they were little creatures going through the woods, they had more than one toe on each foot, and horses still have these little like fleshy pads on their front legs around their knees called chestnuts, which is a leftover part from that, and they have ergots on their back legs, so I'll bring you around and show you now. That's on the left, the leg on the right there, where that one's just fallen off, and on the other leg you can see it's sticking out quite a bit. So essentially these are like fleshy pads that keep growing, and then eventually they get to a certain size. You could see when I showed it to the camera it's kind of like layered, and when it gets to a certain size it just sort of falls off, and I caught it with the brush there, and it just fell off. It was just ready to fall off. And yeah, they grow, and then you can trim them as well, and as long as you're not going right back, it's not painful for them at all, and when they're ready to come off they just pop off, as that one did, and you'll see in a minute I go around and the other one actually does the same, but you can see them there by their knees, and they have similar bits called ergots on their back legs. And she just hasn't trimmed or anything in a while, and it just popped off there as I was brushing her legs. But interesting to show you that. So yeah, you can use this brush on her legs as well. Mia is a colour that we call dark bay, so there's all different horse colours. So essentially she does look quite dark, especially in the light on this side of the sun. She looks almost black. But she is actually very dark brown on her body, so a bay horse is one that's brown on the body with a black mane and tail. You can get bright bays, all sorts of colours, but she's what we call a dark bay because she's very, very dark brown to the point that she is nearly black. You can see she has lighter brown around her muzzle, and in her sort of flank area, and she is dark brown, she isn't black on the body, but the mane and tail is black, so she's a dark bay. And then she has what we call a sop on the back left leg there, so the little white patch. And you can see she's such a good girl. I mean, I'm not actually demonstrating very good horse health and safety here, crouched down in between her back legs, brushing the inside of her legs, but we are very used to each other. If this was a horse I didn't know, I would not be doing this, and I wouldn't recommend this with a horse that you don't know. They can kick you quite easily, whether you're closer or further away. They're quite, they can tuck their legs up quite a bit as well, so generally if you're very close they can't get you that well. You'll see when I'm kind of moving around, I generally put my hand on her bum as I go from side to side so she knows I'm going around behind her. But yeah, we have a really good relationship. She knows me really well, and I know I can get away with that and not be kicked. But that's not necessarily an excuse. I really should be more careful, something could give her a fright. Don't try this at home, basically. Always keep to the side of them, because they can't kick you too easily to the side. So there, using it to just make sure your face is nice and clean. And the main thing is, when grooming horses, you're making sure that the areas under any tack are free of dirt, so that there's no rubbing when you put the tack on them. So I was making sure there that, like, behind her ears and things like that was nice and clean. They can get mud up there when they roll. Oh, the other chestnut, I'm thinking, oh, this is very close to coming off. It's kind of hanging off, so I'm just going to kind of pull it the rest of the way because it was just hanging a little bit. And I just feel that pulling a little bit. Is it ready? But I'm worried that it's going to get caught on something, so I'm just trying to pull it the rest of the way. And it's maybe a little bit sensitive, but they can get a bit caught when they get long sometimes, and it is very long, kind of hanging off at this point. So there we are, it's come off. So yeah, again, you can see here like the layers of the chestnut. I personally think they're quite interesting things when you think why they're there. So again, just getting the mud and the hair and things off this side. It looks like I'm maybe being a bit rough, but you do have to be fairly firm in order to get everything off them. And doing our legs, and then you can use this for their tail and things as well. I'm just showing there all of the big clumps of hair that are coming out of her legs. I can literally pick big clumps of hair out of her legs with my hands. That's how hairy she is, even on her legs. Again, she is very good. I'm crouched down here. I'm doing the back of her legs. I'm doing her belly. I mean, she is a mare. They are known for being what we call marish, being a bit sensitive at times. Their belly is a sensitive area. Their kind of flank area is sensitive. Again, be careful if this is a horse you don't know. They can pick their back legs kind of up and tuck them up in their belly. They can kick you quite easily with the front legs as well. So I am being a bit blasé. Again, I'm standing right behind her and I'm picking clumps of hair out from her back legs. So again, don't try this at home unless you're incredibly confident, you know the horse incredibly well. And I'm very experienced of knowing subtle little changes to her that show that she might think about kicking me soon. But still, be careful. And there, give her tail a nice brush of this one as well. The tricky thing with horses' tails is you don't want to overbrush them, because you can actually pull a lot of the hair out and kind of make their tails shorter and thinner by overbrushing. So you don't want to do too much. Her tail could do with a wash. It's a bit dreadlocky at the end, and that would be better to wash it and detangle it and get that out and tease it out with your fingers rather than brush it too much. And I'm just having a final go over. I didn't actually show you there, but this is what you call a rubber curry comb. So it's a rubber brush, quite a pliable rubber brush that I'm showing you now, with little rubber bits on it, and it being rubber, it grips the hair, but it's a little bit gentler for using on the legs than the metal one I used earlier. So you can see all the clumps of hair coming out of her legs. I'm just trying to get off as much as I can. I'm actually just sort of rubbing back and forward here, just trying to get out the hair, because it is just coming out in clumps at this point. And I can be quite rough with this. Like, it's rubber, it's not going to hurt her. It's actually, like, a lot of horses quite like these rubber brushes. They feel like they're massaging them almost. And the birds, at this time of year, the birds will be loving me for leaving all this hair behind. I'm sure there's lots of birds' nests in the area that are full of horsehair, because look at it all. She has such a nice relaxed expression there, a droopy lip and everything. Like, she's very relaxed here. Nothing that we're doing is worrying her at all. So here I come with the tack now. So this is what you call a numna. It's a nice thick padded one for her just because she is an older gal. It helps just pad things out in her back when she's starting to lose a little bit of muscle there. And again, this is like a sort of pad underneath the saddle to just give a little bit more padding in that area. And the saddle going on, you want to try and get it over nice and gently. And I'm just pulling the numna to make sure that it's all nice and pulled up in the middle of the saddle, and that there's numna in front of the saddle. You want the entire kind of saddle area to be covered. And this is what we call a dressage saddle, so it's quite straight. The saddle flap part that your leg goes over is very straight, and it's got these long there's the girth, so that's a dressage girth, so it's got these long girth straps and this short dressage girth. So in a standard saddle, the girth is longer and it goes under the flap. So this type, it's because it's got this long straight saddle flap to encourage you to have a really long leg and lengthened leg position. You've got these longer girth straps, and the girth sits lower down, so you just have a little short girth. And this one is thickened memory foam, and it's also shaped, anatomically shaped to give a little bit more movement behind the legs and to spread the weight in a nice way. And I'm just putting it on loosely there. You can see she's a little bit what we call girthy. She reacts a little bit to her girth going on. So I've just put it on nice and loose, just letting her get used to it, and I'll tighten it up a little bit before I get on. And this is her bridle. So we have the bit, which has these rubber rings which go to the side of her mouth. It just protects her from the edges of the bit and just provides a little bit of pressure to the edge of the mouth when you're turning one way or the other to like encourage the turning. She mainly has these on actually for vaulting from the lunge, so that she has a little bit of outward pressure to stop her falling out on the circle. So here I'm encouraging the bit into her mouth, and those rubber pieces are not going into her mouth, they're going one either side. It's just the bit in the middle that's going into her mouth. This is it's what we call a snaffle bit. It's a very gentle bit. She can be a little bit strong, but she's not too bad. And then it just goes up over their ears. They have very flexible ears. You can really manipulate their ears. So you pull it up and you slide it back over their ears, and then essentially now I'm doing up a throat lash which goes under her throat, which essentially is really nice and loose. It doesn't inhibit their throat at all. It's just really to try and help keep the bridle on. I'm just making sure that that's all fastened nicely, and that it's pulled right back behind her ears, her hair isn't caught, that the brow band that goes around the front of her head isn't stuck anywhere. And then this is what we call the nose band. So this is going around around her nose, fairly snugly, but not too tight. It just helps them sort of opening their mouth too much and things like this. Doing funny things with their jaw, so we're just tightening that up. And I'll show you just now, I can fit several fingers in there, and I can do that on both sides. It's not super tight. And my stirrups are getting pulled down now, so I know what length I am before I get on. So you want to pull your stirrups down before you get on. Sometimes you need to adjust the length once you're on, but I know what length I am. So I'm pulling them down. Obviously, if I was leaving her standing for any length of time unattended, I wouldn't want to leave these down and the reins flapping around. But I'm not going to leave her unattended, so I'm just making sure the girth is a bit more snug now. And yeah, getting these stirrups down ready to get on. I'm just looking to make sure it looks like everything's in the middle. Looking from the back is actually the easiest way to make sure everything looks straight, and the stirrups look the same length. I'm just tightening the girth a little bit on this side. You want to try and, tighten it quite evenly on both sides. You don't want one side really high and one side really low. You want a nice even pressure on both sides. It helps keep everything in the middle, keep it more comfortable for them. And now I'm just demonstrating her putting boots on. So these are just what we call brushing boots. So they go on the legs and they just help to protect, if it's just doing something where legs end up brushing together or brushing against anything else. It just gives them a little bit of protection. So the straps go on the outside, and you always want to do it so as you're pulling the strap across and velcroing it down, you're doing it towards their back end, so the tabs are pointing towards their back end. And on the inside, it's like a kind of plasticky layer, and they're like padded with sort of polythene stuff inside as protection. And then I'm just changing from my muck boots into my riding boots, ready to go riding. I just change just before I get on, just to protect them and not walking through all the horrible muddy puddles, because riding gear is quite expensive. So I'm just changing to these. I can't ride in those muck boots, they're too thick and they don't have enough of a heel. It's not safe. If you were to fall off, there's a risk that you could get your foot stuck in the stirrup, so it has to be quite a slender boot. But that's me all kitted up and all good to go. So keep an eye out, and there'll be a video of the ride coming very soon. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video as much as Pepper did, make sure to visit my channel at Tanya's Tales and click subscribe to keep up with my latest videos.